Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shan and this is my What I Read in April. There are only 4 books this month, which is not as many as I normally get through, but I'm quite happy with that. I've set myself a target for 60 for the end of the year. We'll see if I manage it. First up then is Cirque. I'm assuming this is pronounced Cirque. It could be Circe, it could be Kirke, I don't know. I'm going to pronounce it Cirque because I don't know what else to pronounce it as. And this is by Madeline Miller. And I really enjoyed this book. My sister read this on holiday, then my mum read it whilst we were on holiday, and then I read it as soon as we came back, and I just really enjoyed the story. I'm not particularly into mythology and gods and things like that. I've never studied it really at school that I remember paying attention to, and this book made it interesting. And that for me is quite a spectacular thing because it's not the kind of thing I would normally be interested in or want to pick up. So let me tell you about it. So born into the house of Helios, the god of the sun, is a slightly strange child, Cirque. She is a god, but she doesn't really fit in. She doesn't have the kind of beauty that her mother has. She doesn't have all the powers that her father has. So she turns to kind of a mortal world for companionship. And that's where she discovers that she does in fact have powers, and pretty good powers. And then it all goes a little bit wrong for her and she gets banished to a little island where she is not allowed to leave from. And it's basically the story of the people who visit her island, what she does to the sailors. She becomes a witch, a sorceress. She trains herself in, it's kind of a feeling within her, and is incredibly powerful. And men come to the island. Some men try and take advantage of her. Obviously they don't know that she is a witch and can turn them into pigs, for example. So there are many stories running throughout this. Obviously she is immortal, she is a god, so she can be punished for eternity in essence. She falls in love with a mortal who will die because they are not immortal. And you know, it's a story of love. It is a story of kind of despair and darkness and light as well. It's a very interesting story, and it's one that I really got into. And like I said before, it's not the kind of book I would normally have read. So the fact that I enjoyed it was definitely a plus in my book. So that was the first book I read this month. Next up is one I've wanted to read for ages. It is The Cuckoo's Calling by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. I was really interested to see how J.K. Rowling wrote crime fiction. I really love crime fiction. It's one of those genres that I can really kind of get my teeth into. I don't tend to get too scared. Horror I'm not very good at, but crime thriller I'm okay with. I don't tend to have nightmares when I read that. That's how active my imagination is, that a book can cause me to have complete nightmares and be scared of walking around in my house. Anyway, The Cuckoo's Calling. This is an incredibly immersive book. It is a big book. It takes quite a lot of getting into. I don't think I've read a crime fiction like this before, where there's so much narrative, and I really enjoyed it, I think. I kind of can't quite decide. I love the book and I can't quite decide if there was too much narrative or just the right amount. So there's a lot of storytelling, there's a lot of building the scene. I didn't guess who did it. It is about a supermodel who has apparently committed suicide and jumped from her balcony, but all is not as it seems. And a private investigator is brought in by the model's brother. And the private investigator is called Cormoran Strike. He is a big guy. He's lost his leg in Afghanistan. He has been a soldier. He's very clever. He really understands people's minds and how they work. And he gets embroiled in this huge saga, which also involves another murder later on in the book. As I said before, it's incredibly immersive. There is a lot of storytelling. If you don't like that, then you probably won't enjoy this book. I did enjoy the book a lot, and I think that the storytelling didn't kind of detract from it. You could have had a lot less waffle. That might be doing it an injustice, but I think it works with it. I've got the next 2 books in the series, so I'm going to start another one of those this month possibly. I don't know, I've got so many books in my to be read pile. I need to like sort my life out. I enjoyed reading this book. The 3rd book I read this month is called Feeis Fragile Hearts by Sarah Barnard, and this is the sequel to Beautiful Broken Things. It's about a girl called Suzanne who has mental health issues, as we know from the story before. She is estranged from her family in that she left the family due to abuse when she was younger and has lived in care since she was younger. So this book opens when she is just turning 18 and being kind of placed into her own apartment. It's basically a bedsit, a really small bedsit in Brighton, which is where she wants to live, where she feels happy and comfortable living. And moving out when you're that young is hard. I can tell you because I have done it. And being on your own is difficult, and being on your own with dark thoughts is also not great. So we see Suzanne's kind of spiraling out of control a bit, and luckily pulling it back in and kind of really taking control of her life. Her 2 best friends live in Brighton, but they're about to go off to university, and they are just lovely friends, but obviously she's also got the kind of everything that goes with your friends moving away and making new friends, that jealousy, that intense jealousy at that age, because you know they're your best friend and they have been since you were a lot younger. And also into the mix comes a guy called Matt, who is a singer and very hot, and Suzanne really likes him. And this book is kind of, it's young adult fiction. It's not angsty, which I quite liked. It's very raw. There's a lot of pain in it, there's a lot of emotion, but it's a good read, and you just want to see her succeed. You're willing her on throughout the book to be like, come on, you can do it, it's going to be okay. And obviously I'm not going to tell you what happens in the end, but I would definitely recommend reading this book. And the final book I read this month is Let Me Lie by Claire Mcinto. This is the Bookish Mama's book club read for April, and I read it on like the 28th of April, but managed to finish it in time before the end of April, which is testament to how good a book this is. I really enjoyed this book, but it left me with more questions than when I started reading the book. I literally don't think I know what actually happened at the end. That's not the best way to finish a crime novel, is it? I don't know. I think I know what happened, but I definitely need to discuss this with someone who has read the book. So if you have read it, please let me know. This follows the story of a young woman called Anna who has been left in tragic circumstances. Her dad committed suicide, and then around 9 months later her mum committed suicide as well, from the same point in the same way, and left Anna having to deal with all of this. She goes to see a therapist who then very swiftly says he can't see her anymore because he's in love with her. They start going out, she gets pregnant straight away, and so all of a sudden she has a baby. She's still dealing with the death of her mum. The baby comes along before the 1st year anniversary of her mum's death. That's how quickly all of that happens. And on the anniversary of her mum's death, she gets a postcard through the letterbox that suggests that her mum and dad's suicides might actually have been murder and not suicide. So Anna obviously goes to the police, and from there everything spirals relatively quickly out of control, ending in the most twisty way possible. I've genuinely not read a book that left me at the end just going, what? What? Really? Hang on, what? So I'm kind of conflicted about this book. I loved reading it, but I don't like the fact that I ended up with so many questions at the end of it. Definitely go read it. When you've read it, come back, let's talk about it. And that's it, my 4 books that I've read this month. I've already got halfway through the next book, so hopefully May is going to be a good reading month, and I've got a little holiday as well in May, so fingers crossed that it will be good. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!